biggest damage that I see that has occurred to us as a people has been our inability to pass down generational wealth. Father-in-law used to say, the best thing you can do for poor people is to not be one of them. So you can't help somebody if you don't have anything. And that's why I wanted to tackle this issue, because I knew Bob was going to be talking about the march. And I wanted people to understand that it's a distraction from what we need as redress in this country.
Hey, family. Welcome to another episode of our co-host special series on the Black Man's Roundtable podcast. We have another jam-packed, unapologetically Black episode. So let's get it. Bobby, Rodney, how you brothers doing today?
Great, man. I'm in the land of the living, bro.
Hey, every day above ground is great. So I'm doing well. Thank you, brother.
That's good,
How
man.
you
That's
doing?
always good. I'm doing outstanding, man. You know, scratching and surviving. You know what I do. Just scratching and surviving.
Amen.
But anyway,
I'm a hustler.
anyway, we have a bunch of stuff to talk about, so we're going to go ahead on and get at it. Bobby, I know we'll be talking about this No Kings rally that's been happening. Rodney, I know you'll be talking about Black Net household wealth, and I'll be talking a little bit about Black kids, well, high schoolers in general, but Black kids specifically, trending going to trade schools versus traditional four-year colleges. So with that, Bobby, take it away, sir.
All right. Hey, well, look, for those that have been sleeping under a rock, we had the No Kings protest, which happened over the weekend in several cities, several big cities across the United States. I wrote down just some of them just in case you're not aware. New York, Washington, D.C., Chicago, L.A., Austin, Texas, Salt Lake City, San Francisco, Miami, Minneapolis, really across all 50 states. There was some protests here in Georgia as well about the rally. So the main impetus behind it, this was organized by Move On, ACLU, and Indivisible. Those are all the groups that help organize this. So we had about 7 million people that participated in the rallies, and it's interesting amongst the talk about those 7 million people that were there. Is I think the majority of those people, if not all, voted in the last election. And that was a topic of discussion we had here in our household, which was how many of those people that participated actually voted. And I said, I believe these are the voters, because we know we had a lot of people that stayed at home for whatever their reasons were, which never makes sense to me, but that did not vote. So what's interesting about the rally itself is that it wound up being peaceful. And what turns out is in a lot of these marches and rallies, they are predominantly peaceful to begin with. I want to make sure that people understand that. They are predominantly peaceful. What happens is the larger that they get, you have agitators. You have those that are not there to protest. They're there to intentionally start something and make it look like, well, see, because they're running with that narrative right now. Well, look what happened in Seattle. Look at the America's cities were burning down, and then you see these videos of people that are looting and doing these type of things, and they associate that with the protest because they want to throw you off from the whole meaning of the protest. They want to make it seem like these are just wild people that are out of control and want to, spread some type of violence across the country, which is not true. And so it's easy to try to put that tag amongst us or other minorities. But the fact of the matter is, again, it's just simply not true. Now, the No Kings protest is basically the word I want to use is a slap, so to speak, against the current occupant of the White House. You know his name. So it's basically, a protest against him and a number of things that he's doing or has already done since he has come into office at the beginning of the year. And I want to get into something about that a little later on, but sticking to this topic, it's interesting because you look across the country and you see so many things going on. I know we talk about this on what topic we're going to choose because before we get here, there's so much that happens in between our taping. So much that happens in between the next episode that we like to talk about. And so literally you can just wait until the day before and you'll have about 5 or 6 things amongst the 3 of us, to choose from to talk about. So it's when we see the state of this country right now, we all know that America has never been perfect. America's always had these flaws. America has never really dealt with this original sin of slavery. And so we see these things. We know America is a highly, highly flawed place to be. However, we've always looked at, and I know we do, when I say we, I'm talking about predominantly us as Black people. We always look for the day where America tries to do better. We've had numerous leaders in the past that have given their lives, that have put down, put their families at risk because of their bravery, to ask America to do better. Rodney, we talked about it before, about the whole issue of the term democracy, in that Black people have basically believed in the term democracy forever, since this country's inception. We fought in every war that this country has ever fought of. We have wanted America to hold up the ideals that they say on paper, We have asked America to live up to that. And every time we want to make progress, or every time we think we've made progress, there's always going to be something to try to pull us back. And so the protests were basically recognized, and predominantly not by us who were participating in these protests, as America trying to go back to the past, go back to its ugly past. And that's really what a lot of people are saying. They don't want to do this. They don't want this. We need more attention to the things that are going on. And we're right in the middle of a government shutdown where fingers are being pointed both ways as to why. We're in the middle of a shutdown. We got ICE acting a fool. And you have civilians basically standing up to ICE and the tactics that they're using to arrest people. You've got all kind of, let's see here, what I wrote down here. I'm sorry. With the deal between Israel and Palestine being taken care of, and I'm of the opinion that whole thing was coordinated well over a year ago. There's no sense that this thing should have been going on for as long as it has. So we know this regime is very dirty, bottom line. And a lot of the things that they're doing are being challenged in court as unconstitutional with the powers that be. But we've also got the courts that have let us down regarding certain powers that they are allowing under this administration as well. So I don't want to take up the whole time with me speaking. I want to get you brothers' thoughts on some of those things that we just discussed, or I just laid out.
Go ahead, Rodney.
Sure. As far as the rallies themselves, and you kind of touched on it a little bit, Bobby, is the part that I'm waiting on with these, No King rallies is to see on November the 4th how many of those protests are going to turn into actual votes. I think that our community's protest was really this past November of last year, when you had, 92 and 80% respectively, I believe, of Black women and Black men voting not for Donald Trump. So and I know people want to see us in these streets, and collectively we have kind of decided to stay home for the most part. But we have been protesting and rallying and getting our brains beat out. Of course, I'm talking about our forefathers and great-great-grandmothers have done all kind of things in those streets. And so what we kind of decided to do collectively is to kind of just watch a little bit from afar and let somebody else take the mantle. But that's what I'm really, before I go on with anything else about that topic, is I'm kind of waiting on November the 4th to see if there are going to be any change in numbers. And so people say, well, you look at what we have in Georgia. We got the PSC election, right? That's the biggest thing I think that we have going on for this election. So people say, well, you can't look at Georgia because it's just a PSC. Don't nobody even know what that is. And then, but you got to look at these states where they have mayors and stuff running, right? And school board members and city council people and that kind of thing. It's like, no, I don't. Look, if people are really paying attention, if it's really I think with Georgia, it'll really show if the economics of Donald Trump is really resonating with people, because it's the PSC, your electric bill. So I think if people were really hurting, I think Georgia would be a good state for people to say, you know what, I don't want my electric bill going up because these groceries are already going up high, eggs and whatever, those kitchen table issues. So I think Georgia could be looked at to see how much animus, how much anger, how much will these rallies, will these protests turn into votes on November the 4th all around the country. That's what I'm waiting on, Bobby. Rodney?
Yeah, I hear you. That's a good point, because turnout has been very low in the area.
Yes, sir.
I'm in Fulton. I looked at the numbers, and they're very low.
Very low.
Yeah, so the demonstration, protest, no kings, no authoritarian, no dictators, day was very well participated around the country. The numbers are impressive. They've gone up since the last two events that they've had. I guess some of the issues that I grapple with is the way that the administration depicted these demonstrators and marchers and protesters before the event. They tried to incite, I think, some of their rank and file that may not have been in uniform with ICE that day, to show up because of the terms that they used. And you know what's amazing to me, Bobby and Rodney? This is the greatest, funniest part of it all. I saw a video of an old white lady with a sign with pictures of her father, her grandfather, and 3 generations. And they were in uniform, the relatives she had. And she said, "These are the anti-fascists from my family." It's amazing how ignorant we are as a country about what anti-fascism means.
Right.
This
Yes.
Antifa acronym or shortness of anti-fascism is turned into a bad word. But the reality is our forefathers died fighting fascism in Europe.
That's right.
And they are supposed to be people that we look up to. So when we say we're anti-fascist, we're against what this current administration is putting on the American people.
That's right.
And that's so ironic. Here, the perpetrator, the oppressor, is using the term to denigrate the very people who are fighting against them. It's amazing to me.
And he's declaring them a terrorist group, even though Antifa
Yes.
is not, you know what I mean? It's like you've taken this group and you've made it like it's some big organization.
Right.
And you now declaring them a terrorist group.
Yeah.
But I don't hear you talking anything about the Klan. I don't hear you talking about the January 6th rioters who you know, violated members of Congress, the police, the Capitol Police that were outside.
Yeah.
I don't hear you talking about them.
Those were the domestic terrorists.
Exactly, the domestic terrorism. And by the way, one of those that were pardoned,
yes,
recently was found to have made threats against Hakeem Jeffries.
Yes, I heard that.
Yes. So, and you know, there was recently an incident here in Atlanta about a man who had come down to the airport ready to shoot up the airport.
From Cartersville.
From Cartersville, right? And if you notice, they said that he had a mental episode. Well, what gets me is, how many of these mental episodes we going to keep talking about?
Right.
That's being used as a cloak now.
Yes,
because
sir.
we know the profile.
Yes, sir.
The profile is consistent every time.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And then we just going to keep saying, well, this person had a mental episode. Well, guess what? How do people with mental illness keep getting their hands on firearms?
How many rounds, bro? I couldn't believe it.
27.
I think
27 was the number.
Yeah. What
he had. You know, so until people are serious about gun legislation, you know, these type of things will unfortunately continue to happen.
Yes.
But they're not serious. You know, and that's the whole thing. Until No, they're not even serious about bloodshed, because we've even
Yes, sir.
talked about this with Sandy Hook.
Yes,
We
sir.
talked about this with the
Their own
numerous shootings.
kids.
Yes, and we keep talking about this, but nothing is ever done. So it's money over people, it's profit over people, every time. So I say all this because I know we were talking about the marching.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's
but
related to what
it's
people
all
are
related
opposed
to it.
Yeah.
Yes, it's
Yeah.
all
That's
It's
related.
all
what they're
relative.
opposed to.
It's all
Yes.
relative.
Yeah,
It's all
it is.
relative.
And these
Yeah.
people are literally, like Rodney alluded to, when he didn't allude to, like Rodney just say it straight out, which is that you're literally protesting anti-fascism. But you got to give him credit.
Yeah.
Trump did say he loved the uneducated.
Mhm.
Yes,
You know what
sir.
I'm saying?
Mhm.
And so, and it also just proves that people in today's political environment, in today's, and you guys know that so much of this is about identity, politics,
yeah.
and all of that
Yes, sir.
stuff.
Yes, sir.
And that's why these little slogans, or these little taking 3 letters, DEI and all this stuff, and the people have no idea what it is. But that's how identity, politics works. But it's just crazy to me, like you're saying, Rodney and Bobby, it is. And so what do you want? You want fascism?
Right.
It's
Exactly.
like, that's what you
You
want?
pro-fascist?
That's what you want?
You're pro-fascist?
And remember, we grew up, I know in my era, and I'm assuming the same, we grew up hearing so much about World War II. That was quote unquote the big one, right? How close we all were, or may have been close to speaking German. That was the talk, right? About the next generation of what was done. And the participation in that war was many Black people, as we know, about the our participation in World War II, Tuskegee Airmen, doing what they did. So it's like we constantly keep contradicting ourselves in this country. And I see it so much now, and it drives me nuts, with things that people said that they were for. And in reality, no, you're not. No, you're not. You're hiding behind slogans and ideology, but you don't have any real practical, day-to-day hardcore values that you hold on to. Because if you did, you would speak up more. You would say, no, this is wrong. And that's where we are as a country today, which is sad. And honestly, it's where we've always been. I
Yep.
shouldn't say it's just today. It's
yeah,
just
exactly.
more. It's just more in the forefront right now.
You know
is
what, Bobby?
Yes.
You know what, Bobby
Yes.
and Rodney? The way that I see it is, the country, the United States of America, is not happy unless we're at constant war. So even when we are not in a hot war, we're in a cold war. Even when we're not in a hot or a cold war, the war that we're in all the times that never stops year round, the culture wars.
Culture wars.
So we're constantly, and so when those other two, if we're not in a cold war or a hot war, it's like that's when the culture wars really ramp up, man. It's crazy.
And that's what he's trying to. I'm sorry, to interrupt you.
No,
and
I
that's
was finished.
really, yeah. That's really where what he wants. He wants this culture war. He wants this fight. Because again, he's the type that throws stones and hides his hands.
Yeah. Project
So he wants
2025
us to
said the
fight
culture
each
war
other.
is necessary for him to
Absolutely.
really get to the rest of the. I think Rodney had talked about we're at 52 or 54% with Project 2025. The culture wars are very important for him to get to complete the other 45% or so.
Absolutely.
Project 2025. Yes, sir.
There's something I want to touch on that much later before we sign off. It's he wants a fight here.
My topic should go pretty quick,
Americans.
so we probably have some time at the end, Bobby. Mine shouldn't take too long.
Okay.
So yeah.
Okay. But he wants Americans to fight each other. He wants to declare martial law. He wants to suspend elections. He doesn't.
Yes.
For those that aren't paying attention, they don't see this stuff, or they see it and don't care. But this is what he wants to do. He wants to be a king. And one other thing I forgot to add, that he's doing that people are upset about is now all of a sudden we're bombing boats in the Caribbean and declaring, in the Caribbean and in the Gulf of Mexico, and declaring, well, these were boats that are bringing drugs into our country, right? You're just randomly bombing them. You don't know. And then you're releasing the ones that survive back. Wait a minute. if they're committing a crime, right, by bringing illegal drugs into the country, why are you releasing them? Right? If you bombed that boat and there were survivors, why are you releasing them back to where they came from?
But they weren't drug dealers.
You think? You see what I'm saying? So you just now you just randomly deciding to bomb people. It's just so much lawlessness going
while
on.
at the same time,
just...
while at the same time, trying to get the Nobel Peace Prize while he's bombing while he's killing people. I mean, what the world, man? It's
begging
crazy,
for it.
Man.
Please,
It's
please
crazy.
give it to me. Please, because Barack Obama got
James
one.
Brown.
Please give me
That's
one.
it.
Please.
Yep.
Well, I think the demonstration kind of took all the eyes off of the going through as descendants of child slave in this country, because what they did was they focused on the political picture right now with this no kings, but that takes the attention away from what's been going on that's hurting us as a people.
Exactly.
And the biggest damage that I see that has occurred to us as a people has been our inability to pass down generational wealth. Father-in-law used to say, the best thing you can do for poor people is to not be one of them. So you can't help somebody if you don't have anything. And that's why I wanted to tackle this issue, because I knew Bob was going to be talking about the march. And I wanted people to understand that it's a distraction from what we need as redress in this country.
Exactly.
Black net worth disparity. A disparity means that we should be here, but we're here. And if everything had been equal, we would be here with our peers from the non-melanin tribe. And then I'm going to talk about 4 ways to build black wealth, because we talk about problems, but we have to give them some suggestions and some ways out of it. So here's the deal, bro. By 2053, the median net worth black family is going to be zero. Zero. Net worth means you add up all your assets, your cash, your house, your boat, your jewelry, your furniture, and then you minus away from that your mortgage, your parent loans, your credit cards, and the difference is your net worth. So if you have $500,000 in assets and you have in liabilities, money you owe out, then your net worth is $250,000. That's your value that you have after you pay off all your bills and you cash out all your assets. You should have $250,000 in that scenario. Here's some of the key findings on net worth disparity. As of 2022, the difference in median net worth between a white family and a black family widened to over $240,000. I knew that $250,000 came from somewhere. so that means the average white family has $250,000 more in median net worth than the average black family. Steep. So when we hear about folks living paycheck to paycheck, they don't have a month's worth of savings. If there's an emergency, they can't come up with a $10,000 or $1,000 bill. That's what we're talking about in terms of worth. The median versus average net worth. You hear them talk about the average net worth. The median net worth, which is the wealth of a typical family, is more indicative of the broader financial reality for black households than the average, which can be skewed extremely by wealthy individuals. So, for argument's sake, you take all the big athletes and entertainers in our community, and you just average the average net worth of a black family using that, it's going to be skewed high. The median deals more with what I said earlier, okay? The median income based upon the population, not an average. Inequality within racial groups. Wealth inequality also is represented within racial groups. The richest 25% of black households held 90% of the total black wealth in 2021. So 90% of the wealth in our community was held by 25% of black folks. So even in our community, it's skewed. It's not distributed in a way that's why we have such a large poor class of folks in our community because the wealth is skewed. Same thing in the majority community, in white
Right.
folks' community. Same thing.
Exactly.
So we're just a microcosm. Factors contributing to the wealth disparity. A little bit of history. A legacy of discriminatory policies and practices, including slavery, Jim Crow laws, redlining. Well, I could add to that the crack epidemic. Stripped the wealth from Black communities and limited their ability to build wealth. If you remember the 2008 economic crisis,
Yes, sir.
we lost a lot of homes.
Yep.
Black folks lost land and property, foreclosed. We lost a lot of the main asset that we have in our community that we use to building wealth is your home.
Yep.
We don't invest in big stock portfolios and Bitcoin and all of that. They do that. We don't, on average.
Also, that 2020 pandemic had a little something to do with it too.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, in a different way, but
COVID.
yes, absolutely.
Yes. Yes.
Jobs were lost,
Yes,
income
sir.
was lost, property was lost.
They get
Absolutely.
sick. They get
That
sick.
just
They get the flu.
exacerbated.
They get the flu. We get COVID.
And also during that period, Rodney, you bring up a good point. The so-called incentives to save businesses, we didn't benefit from that the way that white-owned businesses did. We did not. Not even close. You know, a lot of that was forgiven. You know,
Yeah.
I can remember, I think there's a Georgia congresswoman that got 100-something thousand for her family's business. Names NGT, I think is the initials.
They were handing out their corporate welfare, buddy.
Yeah, bro. Part of the issue is unequal wealth accumulation. While wealth accumulation rates for Black Americans rose from 1870 to 1980, accumulated wealth, they stalled in the decades since. That we talk about, Ronnie, the COVID and the 2008. White Americans have historically enjoyed higher average savings and capital gains rates using tax policy, which benefits them for the most part in terms of the numbers. Also, income inequality. Significant income disparities still persist. Median Black household income in 2023 being 33% lower than that of white households. This provides less disposable income for savings and investments, 33%. Income inequality. All this contributes to the lack of a strong net worth and value. I'm coming to the close on this part. Relying on depreciating assets. Here we go. Tax codes again. Black households' wealth is less diversified and relies more heavily on home equity, which accounted for almost 44% of total Black wealth in 2022. That's what I said earlier. By contrast, stocks and mutual funds make a much larger share that white households typically have more of. They invest in portfolios, higher investments that are yielding in stock assets. Less liquid assets. Again, we don't make enough to set aside the cash. We're not making these banks all this money in these credit unions. Relying on depreciating. Oh, I did that. Liquid assets. Black households have significantly fewer financial resources for emergencies or investment compared to white households. You know, if there's an emergency, if you don't have a HELOC, you're in trouble. If you got property and you don't have some form of savings, you're in trouble. Access to credit for your business and for yourself personally. Black Americans are more likely to be denied credit or approved for less than the requested amount, even at the same high income levels, which impacts our ability to make large purchases or start or expand a business. And the last part that gives you the picture where we are in terms of disparity, we have higher rates of debt. Black households are more likely to have unsecured debt, particularly student loans, which can hinder wealth accumulation. So those are the big factors that go into the net worth disparity and our ability to thrive and pass down wealth. I don't know what to say, bro, other than we have to figure out a way to capitalize off of this movement for a no kings authoritarian government to make sure that America benefits everyone. Now, I know we're getting ready to go through an economic crisis. If you haven't been watching the news, we're headed in a bad direction. A lot of it has to do with current policy on trade. and job loss that's occurring, the uncertainty in the economy as it relates to not knowing whether or not you should buy that extra inventory, hire staff. Folks are going to be closing businesses more and more. The rate's going to be higher and higher. As you know, our farmers are catching heck because of these tariffs. So, 4 ways to build black wealth. Before I get into that, guys, you had any questions about the net worth disparity? Anything you want to say on that? Because I'm going to close on the 4 ways to build black wealth.
Well, I'll wait till the end.
Okay,
I'll
bro.
wait till the end because I may have something to add, but you may be covering it, so I'll wait.
All right, no problem. So the future is tied to the young people, right? So if the average white family holds about 6 times as much wealth as the average black family, wealth disparities for young Americans are even more stark. Young white Americans are holding 16 times the wealth of a young black American before they turn age 25. Okay? So when we talk about
Rodney,
reparations...
say that one more time for the people in the back.
Okay, for the folks in the back of the room. Wealth disparities for young Americans are even more stark. Young white Americans are holding 16 times the wealth of a young black American before they turn age 25. So, yeah, exactly, bro. Exactly. How you going to start a business? How you going to start a family? How you going to buy a house? How you going to pay your college tuition? We're at a historic disadvantage still after 250 years of this country being formed. Celebrations coming up. Am I right? 250 years? This is where we are. So when people complain about affirmative action and minority business contracts set aside, and yeah, there's a reason for that. It was to begin to remedy the wrongs of the generational disparities caused by the founding of this country and the enslavement of our ancestors. That's what these programs were designed to do. Affirmative action for jobs, purchasing from the federal government, set aside contracts, 8A contracts to black-owned businesses. They couldn't say, oh, this is reparations, so you had to include everybody else and their mama. But at least we got something out of it, and it was a start. Now they're talking about eliminating, like it's illegal against the Constitution to do anything for folks that look like us and are descendants of child slavery in this country who built this country. The wealth of this country, that these 60 times more wealth for young whites have, is because of that. So when I'm celebrating 250 years, bro, I'm gonna be right on the street corner celebrating because my people, my ancestors, made it possible for you to have the wealth you have as a country 250 years later. We have as much right to participate in this government, to participate in this economy, to be safe in this country as anyone else, more so, in my mind. So, Black Net Worth Disparity. We got to work on this. One of the things, 4 major areas that we can work on, my brothers, is this. 4 major areas. Worker-centered policies can build black wealth and support black workers who earn less. Break the disparity in income levels for the same work. 2, reducing inequitable tax penalties for black married couples could increase wealth. That one blew my mind. I'm going to get into the details. Scaling baby bonds could reduce black-white racial wealth gaps. Baby bonds. I heard about this a couple of years back, but I never knew what it meant. I dug into it, and I know now. And the 4th, reparations can address accumulated losses and historic barriers to build wealth. Those are the 4 major building blocks for black wealth building. And I'm just going to summarize each real quick. Raising the minimum wage, period, bottom line. Just raise the minimum wage to a living wage for everybody. Don't exclude anybody, but definitely that would help us. Strengthening unemployment insurance. Black workers who lose a job are 24% less likely than white workers to receive unemployment insurance benefits. Guess what? More likely if you live in southern states where benefits are less generous and less accessible. I know y'all remember Georgia Labor Department problems we had during COVID. Everybody had a tough time getting the benefits that were passed down from the federal government for us. Remember that?
Yes, sir.
It was a zoo. So they need to straighten that out for everybody, but definitely it helps us. On the second one, reducing inequitable tax penalties for Black married couples. Wow. Let me tell you, I had to really dig into this one because, I'm not an accountant, but I am a businessman and I do my taxes, so I understand. Marriage penalties and bonuses are one way these disparities have persisted. They are a side effect of the system's progressive family-based income tax, where couples with more equal incomes are more likely to face penalties than those with less equal incomes. Okay? This is how it works. Black couples are more likely to have more equal incomes since Black women are more likely to work and more likely to earn more relative to Black men than white women and white men. In other words, their incomes don't fit into that category as much because there's a bigger disparity. A white man makes more than the average white woman. This allows couples to file as head of household, would eliminate marriage penalties, reducing taxes 46% of Black couples. If we could have the same policy for those who benefit from this penalty and those who don't. So raising the minimum wage might help a little bit, but it's the tax policy that benefits majority white folks because of their income is a bigger disparity between the men and the women, and ours is more equal. I had no idea. I don't do detailed, I don't do itemized, especially now. So I never looked into this. But as I was getting into this issue about how to build wealth, that's a tax policy that needs to be corrected that would improve that. 3, baby bonds. Man, I had no idea this was happening. Black Americans are less than half as likely to receive inheritance or gifts from family members. As we talked about, there's nothing to pass down. This disparity accounts for roughly 26% of Black-white racial wealth gap because nothing's being passed down to us as it is our non-melanin brothers and sisters. Baby bonds, which are publicly funded trust accounts, some cities are using to invest in the future of low wealth and low-income children, can help reduce this gap. When a child becomes adult, funds can be used to pay for college, purchase a home, or start a business, things that people who inherit wealth already do. So this is a way to try to mitigate the disparity by creating a fund that helps kids who are in a low-income bracket so they have something to start with in life. This has been done in a couple of areas in Connecticut, Washington, D.C., and California. So look it up. Baby bonds. BONDS. And the last part, brothers, we talked about from time to time, but it's called reparations. Okay? There are different models for reparations. We're going to talk about that, I think, on our special at the end of the month on how Fulton County did it. But it could help close the gap that exists right now in the wealth gap. Excuse me. Federal investment could strengthen research and policy development infrastructure around reparations to help support the development of an evidence-based national reparations program. Now, my understanding is it's best to do it from the local level up. But if the federal government did this nationally, what they would do is develop a program that, again, would be targeted locally because that's where you can identify the impact the best as possible in terms of governmental impact. So there are places such as Evanston, Illinois, Detroit, Michigan, Providence, Rhode Island, Asheville, North Carolina, and the state of California, where commissions have been in existence to address and evaluate the impact of racist municipal and state policies on wealth building for Black Americans and their descendants. So when we're talking about the governmental side of reparations, we're talking about the impact based upon their policies and their laws at the time that hurt our ability to gain wealth. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it, my brothers. We have to have our leaders understand the kinds of policies that they should be pushing that helps to build Black wealth. This doesn't hurt the country. That's what I never understood, Bobby and Rodney. Maybe y'all could explain it to me. You told me you didn't want me in your community. You segregated us. We built our own communities. We were thriving. We were feeding each other, jobs for each other, our community, taking care of business, not bothering you, contributing to the wealth of the governments in the area, paying our taxes, and you came and destroyed it and took it away. You're cutting your nose off to spite your own face, my non-melanin brothers and sisters, because as one of us is strong, all of us are strong. And while you keep us down, you're keeping America down, period. That's the bottom line. I don't care whether it's in politics, in science, in athletics, in business. I don't care what it is. We're a weaker country if we continue this policy of white supremacy and anti-DEI, supposedly, in this country. And I rest my case.
Bobby, but you know what? I'm gonna let Bobby get in first, because I think I've been looking at Bobby. He is itching. Bobby is itching to get in on this.
That's what we do to each other.
That's what we do. But look, before Bobby gets started, and look, I got other stuff to say, but I just want to say this before I kind of forget it, which is that those four building blocks, Rodney, and I'll talk about this when I get ready to talk about this portion, this topic, your topic, wealth, Black wealth, is I still see those building blocks as us asking. It still feels like we're asking. You understand what I'm saying? And so I think it's about, now the great thing about this is that, and you guys know we do not do this on purpose. I know that people may think we do it on purpose, but I don't even do on purpose to tie the things together. But as I'm listening to you and Bobby, because Bobby always go first, you go second, I go third, then the benefit of going last is just getting to look at how all this tie together. So Bobby, of course, talking about the rallies and marching and protesting and those kind of things. And we're kind of sitting back. We're kind of really right now, I had said something earlier this week to someone that honestly, if it's not a protest, that's an economic protest, I'm good. I don't want too much to do with it, right?
Right.
Because I understand that economics is the war that we're losing, and it's by design and all of that. I'll talk about how since 1964 that, once they gave us the Civil Rights Act and the Voting Rights Act, that their whole thing over these past 60 years has been concentrated on taking those things away. But I just wanted to just kind of grease the skids on that, because what Bobby talked about, the protesting, and now right what you're talking about, and like I mentioned when we first started out, this co-host special, which is where I'm going to talk about young people, and you talked about the 16 times that the white young people have over.
Yes, sir.
And this is why I'm going to talk about, these trades, because that's where the money
Yes,
is at.
sir.
So it all
Exactly.
ties together.
There
All
you
this
go.
stuff is tying
There you
together.
go.
And guess what? Can't
Yes, sir.
nobody stop you from being a master mechanic or a master plumber.
Amen.
You understand what I'm saying? You ain't got to
Amen.
ask for that.
That's it.
Because guess what? We can train
Amen.
each other. You follow what I'm saying? Can't nobody
That's
stop
right.
you from
That's right.
being the appraiser. Can't nobody
Yeah.
stop you
Right.
from doing that, because Bobby can train you
Right.
to do that. You understand what I'm saying?
There you
So
go.
it's about
That's right.
time that all this asking, that's what they want. It's like, we're not going to give you anything. We're not going to give you anything. And guess what, Rodney, Bobby? I don't blame them. I mean, people just, look, if you sitting in a cushy, privileged place, I don't think you're just going to give that up. So, but anyway, Bobby, go ahead. Go
Nah.
ahead, brother.
No, I mean, I wanted to add something I wanted to hear. It was going to be part of the building blocks, and surprisingly, I didn't hear it, which was I would advise to have a financial advisor, and to get things in order in terms of generational wealth, you need a trust. Get your wills together, and be able to pass down to your offspring or to your family, assets that you have, so that it's not sitting and tied up in probate, because you don't know how long it's going to take. Georgia, by the way, has no probate. They have no threshold, so it's at zero. So meaning everything goes to probate. I learned this from my wife's cousin. So we literally just signed our trust information yesterday. And I would advise anyone, this is what we tend to do at times. We may have had land that's been passed down to us from, previous generations before us. And oftentimes, whether it's land or whether it's property, the first thing people want to do is or I'm going to sell it, right? Instead of realizing like, no, what you need to do is use some leverage in what you're doing. Real estate, as you mentioned before, Rodney, that is the biggest investment you're going to make in your lifetime. If it doesn't matter your income in terms of what you have, you can only buy what you can afford. But property has value. Land has value, right? As we learn, there's only so much land on Earth. That's what makes it so valuable, because Earth is consisted of mostly what? Water. So the land has value. So a lot of times people want to, they'll inherit something, and the first thing they want to do is sell it. Oh man, I can get 20, 30. You know why they're offering you 20 or 30? Because
It's worth a lot more.
that investor knows it's worth maybe 10, 20 times what they're selling it to you for.
That's right.
So, and what they're going to do with it. So you have to strategize. And if you don't know what you're doing, that's why I say talk to a financial advisor.
Good
But
advice.
you have to strategize how to take full advantage of the assets that you got. If you got land and you're not doing anything with it, all right, find out the location of where it is, look at it, scope around and see what's outside of there, because investors will come in, they're going to purchase it for you for next to nothing, and they're going to make millions
That's
off
correct.
of it. So why aren't
That's
you
right.
leveraging that with a ground lease? Well, yeah, you can buy the land, but I want for the next 75 years, for you to pay me X amount of dollars for this land that I am leasing to you. I still own it. You can build on it, but I still own it, right? These are the kind of strategies that people aren't doing, because the first thing that we think about when we
Sell it.
is
Yeah.
sell it, right?
Right.
And
That's
don't
good.
realize like that property that's sitting there and it's dilapidated and there's nothing, build on it.
There
Figure
you
out a
go.
way to open up your own LLC. Figure out a way how to maximize that property value for you,
That's
for
right.
your
That's
family.
right. That's right.
And this last thing I'll say, last month I had the privilege of buying back the land where my grandparents' house
That's
used to be.
nice.
And it's powerful when you do that. I just sat there for a second, because I was happy to have it back, and I want to share it, with the family. I don't know what I'm going to do with it yet, but it doesn't matter. It's like I got time.
Got
When I
it.
say it's
Right.
mine,
That's
it's
right.
mine. I just encourage people to do that, because we have a lot of us do have whether it's your mother or your
That's
cousin
right.
or something, that they own land somewhere that you're doing nothing with it,
That's
right?
right.
But don't realize how you can maximize what that land is, because again, there's only so much of it on Earth, which means it has value. It has value, and yeah. So
I agree.
it's people I know that have land or property that is worth a lot more if they think outside the box as to what you
Right.
want to do with it.
Yep.
So I would just encourage those things. Those things happen, can definitely help generational wealth. And I'm gonna add one last thing, really, really quick. I get upset when I hear about, or when I think about, when we talk about in terms of opening businesses, and I think about the policy. Again, I've mentioned this before. Kamala Harris, instead of $5,000, $50,000 to start a business. Given the child tax credit, that would have helped start young families coming out of college, having a child, buy a home, right? Get them established, get them a foothold to establish a business. Again, you can open up an LLC through the Secretary of State, and figuring out how do you maximize opening your own business. It could be in any number of fields. But I think about that a lot every time I think about that was a start. So people piled on it. Well, she said she wouldn't do that for black people. You have to read between the lines. You
Thank you.
can't just openly say you're going to do something specifically targeting
This
one,
country.
exactly, one race of people. You can't do it. It's unconstitutional, and get elected. That's right, if you expect to win. So I'm going to leave it at that.
Well, I'm a real estate broker. Been one most of my career,
So
and I agree with 100% what you said. And that's why I wanted to get into the issues of wealth building
Mhm.
and what we need to be looking at, and the things I talked about were government policies. But What you talked about is exactly right. You need to take care of your own business with the right advice.
That's right.
And like Bobby
That's right.
said, Rodney, we have to read between the lines with those policies that Kamala Harris were wanting to, we're talking about that she would do if she became president, as well as many of the ones that Obama did when he were actually in the White House. But again, we want the word black in it, you know. So I could not borrow money for this podcast from the federal government because it got black in it, because it's the Black Man's Round Table. It's like, oh no, you can't.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what people have to
Right.
understand. But I made
Good
a comment
point.
earlier that Donald Trump said that he liked the uneducated. But I tell you one thing, guys, it seems like the only time those people, those same people that he called the uneducated, that I guess he knows is a large part of his voting bloc, those people all of a sudden seem to be the smartest people in the world once it comes down to those policies that'll help people that look like the three of us. All of a sudden they're smart.
Yep.
And they're like, oh, no,
Yes.
we don't want that. No matter how much it hurts them, we don't want that. Then all of a sudden they get smart. But one thing, Rodney, before we close out your topic, is people also need to understand generational wealth. So like you talked about, we're not trained, or we don't train our youth on money matters, right? But also is, for instance, one of the highest taxes. Only tax I know that is tax, only income that I know that's taxed higher than payroll income, for instance, is winnings, like lotteries and going on a game show and that kind of thing. That's a very high tax that you pay on that money, almost like 50% close to it, or something like that. And so, but payroll tax, don't lag too far behind. It's always somewhere in the 20s or 30s. It's always up there, right? And so I made a conscious decision at a certain age. Once this beard started kind of going white, I made a conscious decision that the only thing that I want coming into my house is 1098s, 1099s. I don't want that. You keep your W-2, and so because that is so highly taxed that we don't understand that capital gains tax is usually single digit tax. But again, I've had, and I'll end my comments with this, Rodney, is that I've had brothers on this show to talk about how right over there on one of our eastern counties, how there are many farmers over there that looks like us, who as soon as the patriarch, I guess, of the farm dies, those children, the first thing they say is sell it. They don't want to do the work. Some developer comes flash, $10 million in their face, and there you go. You've lost a $40 million farm. That happens. Okay. Also, even his own business that he's had in his family business for almost 50 years, his millennial children say, hey, we don't want that headache. It's too much work. So This is what has happened. It's very, very sad. I've never seen so many people in our generations, Generation X, baby boomer, who are struggling on, and you know what, Rodney, that is why most people who, even if you don't have a bunch of wealth to pass down, most of the time, what you need more than a will is you need a trust, what Bobby was talking about.
Yeah, that's what Bobby's
You
talking
need
about.
it more than I can guarantee it 90% of the time. You need a trust more than you need a will. Now you can have both, but I'm just saying that trust is much more important, even if you think you don't have a whole bunch to leave behind, because a trust also can hold people accountable. But anyway, that's a whole nother, y'all know we can do one of these every single week. We could do a co-host special every single week, and I never run out of stuff to talk about, because there's so much to cover, because we're so dedicated. We see what's happening. We see what's happening to, our people and this war. They know that if you think that they don't know by 2052 that our household is going to be zero, let me tell you something. if you, it's hard to fight anything when you're hungry and unemployed.
Mhm.
And
Yes,
so,
sir.
you can have a house full of guns. You can have all that you want, but if you're waiting on them, then you're absolutely wrong. And my topic will start to talk about what our youth needs to be doing in order to stop a lot of the things, or hopefully at least curtail or something, some of the things that you talked about, Rodney, and some of the things that Bobby talked about as far as the reasons that we need to get out or don't get out and protest. I think we need to be concentrating on some other issues, like you throwing all this stuff in our face, like you saying, right? We need to be talking about generational wealth. We need to be talking about economics, like Bobby. That's what we need to be doing. But anyway, I'll let you gentlemen say anything else before we close yours completely out, Rodney, and go to mine.
I'm good.
Good.
I'm
Okay.
good.
Great.
Wait.
Mine is talking about students choosing trade school at a higher rate than they are traditional 4-year colleges. I think that a long time now that is happening. That trend has been happening with non-melanated young people for a very long time. But what they did is they pulled those trades out of the high school shop, and y'all remember all that stuff. They
Yeah.
put
Oh, yeah.
plumbing. You could
Oh,
take
yeah.
all kind. They put, because let me tell you something. There was a high enrollment of black people doing those jobs. They call them blue collar jobs. I call them black collar jobs these days, right? And so, because that's what we need. We need black collar. And so, when you think about it, when you really look back on it, it was usually black men who were typically doing all of the, to include construction, who were typically doing a lot of the jobs that you see, non-melanated people doing, these contractors and stuff. But we have to always understand they always have us playing checkers while they're playing chess. A lot of those jobs were these blue collar, what I'm calling black collar jobs now, that we need to get back to. It was pulling them out of poverty, left and right. And now you have the highest degreed in America subgroup of people, which are black women. Per capita has more degrees than anybody, but yet are almost the lowest paid workers in America. And so these white guys primarily go out there and get a master plumbing certificate, go out there and get ASE certified as a automotive technician and all these things, and making twice as much as that black woman with the master's degree and even the PhD.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, I'm going to get into real quick some of the reasons as to and concerns as to why young black high school students are increasingly choosing trade schools. Black high school students are increasingly choosing trade schools over 4-year colleges due to high college costs, concerns about stagnant wages, and the desire for direct, stable career paths without significant student debt. This trend is driven by the appeal to well-paying, in-demand jobs in skilled trades like welding, plumbing, electrical work, which often offer high earning potential and financial freedom compared to some college degrees. Trade schools provide a more direct route to employment, and some see them as a smart investment that allows for financial stability and the potential to own a business. Some of the challenges: the social stigma. I think that social stigma comes primarily from us. It's like we have a social stigma about mental health. They don't, you know? So, but anyway, social stigma, misconceptions, the need to challenge misconceptions. Trade school only for students having problems at school. I don't think so, and they don't like that. They don't like that misconception. So, but yeah, those are just a few of the things. I'm not going to go, too much in detail because I think we all know what the deal is. But I think one of the biggest hoaxes, guys, in the American education system, especially at the high school level, Actually, it's not the trade schools, which is the biggest hoax number 2, but the first biggest hoax to me in our high schools throughout America, designed by the Department of Education, was to take civics and to take economics out of high school. And then once they took those 2 out, now you don't know anything about politics or civics or any of that stuff. Okay. Now, and then you take all things financial out of high school. Now you don't know anything about money. Those are the 2 things that are, if you are on top of those 2 things in a free enterprise system that we have in America, okay, especially a capital that's run on capitalism, if you don't understand civics and you don't understand finance, money, you're done. I don't care how many degrees you have. It's a fool and his money will soon depart. Okay, a fool and not knowing politics will soon depart as well. But number two, guys, is definitely the taking trades out of high school. I think those were the 2 biggest hoaxes in America. We fell for the okie doke, especially us, the melanated people, fell for the okie doke. We cannot keep doing it. My mantra has always been, do the opposite of what they're trying to push us to do. Because they're playing chess. We don't know the other end. Like I said, if you're not at the table, then you're either on the menu. So we have to, anyway, guys, please opine.
Excellent point. Go ahead, Bob.
I'm sorry I had to laugh when you said fool and his money are soon departed. Not because of the quote itself. I just had a flashback to a Sanford and Son episode when Lamont was gambling and Fred was trying to help him out. He said, "What?" He said, "It won't be long now, fool." You know, he basically tell Lamont, "You the fool. You about to lose your money." Anyway, I didn't mean to get off on that.
No.
You're on point, because the pulling civics out of school, it shows. It definitely shows now. I'm just amazed at how people just don't have a clue how government works. You go vote and then you lambast. You go opine like you know what you're talking about, and you don't even know how the government works. That happens across the board with everybody. That blows me away. And I've one that I've also questioned regarding finances, as well as learning the stock market. By the time we graduate from grade school, we should know how the stock market works. And what I mean by that is, the more people that invest in the market, it goes up. The bigger the Dow goes, right? So it's like, why wasn't, and I didn't learn this until I got to college. And it's like, why didn't we learn about this before? Because as you mentioned, a lot of us don't invest in the market because we don't understand it, right? But we're thinking that it's a quote unquote gamble. Well, it's an investment, right? First of all, it's an investment. Like anything else, yeah, it can crash, but if you know how the market works, you can make sound investments. This is one of the things that I came to my own conclusion about the market. We're in a global market. And I went back and I thought about since the year 2000. Let's go back to the turn of the century. And I know really the turn of the century, 21st century is 2001. But if you go back to then, right, we have had 9/11. We had a global financial crash. We've had a global pandemic, right? And we've had 2 wars, with Iraq and Afghanistan, right? We had all that stuff go on. So we think about where the market was when President Barack Obama took over, right? It was around 6,000. The Dow is now over 46,000 today. So in 25 years, the Dow has grown over 40,000 more points. That tells me long term, the market's going to have its ups and downs like it always does. But all in all, it's going to come back. It's going to come back. And I look at it over decades. Think about those things I just mentioned. A global financial crisis, a global pandemic, 9/11, and then not to mention all the other wars that's going on. It's over 46,000, the Dow. It's over 46,000. So when you go all the way back to what was going on during that time at the very beginning of 2000, from since then until now, Look how much the market has grown because we're all tied in globally to how this thing works. Long-term investments. What willing we're here 25 years from now? Is the Dow going to be over 60? Will it be over 70? We don't know, but it's these type of things that we're not educated enough on, and it allowed me to make more investments into the market. But it allowed me to be more educated on like just thinking and saying, man, all these things happen and look where it is today. It's tied in globally, so it can't fail for long term. I shouldn't use the word can't, it can, but most likely, let's just say most likely, long
Exactly.
term, it's going to still work itself out. And if we're not investing or if we're not taking advantage of some of this, you're missing out on, again, potential wealth to transfer over through your family. So they've got a head start on us about this, long before we did. But as you said, Rodney, when you pull civics out and you pull out finances as to
Yep.
understanding
Civics, yep,
how to
economics, but yeah, fine, yeah,
yeah,
civics and
yeah,
economics. That's exactly.
yeah,
And
absolutely.
you know what, Bobby?
Mhm.
One of the first things that were traded on Wall Street were black bodies. So we were already out of the game. You see, there's a whole history behind why calling it Wall Street and the whole 9 yards. And just like
Yeah.
everything else in this country, it all comes back to the enslaved. It all comes back to that original sin.
That's right.
With so many
right.
as to why is that called Wall Street? You can almost bet without even doing research, some kind of way it's going to be linked to black people in slavery, right? Especially
Yep.
when you're talking about it's
Yep.
making money,
Exactly.
right? If you are investing in the stock market, cannot fail as long as it is under this free enterprise system that is run, that capitalism is what is the engine behind the system. And
That's
so
right.
therefore, even if it were to drop back down to the Dow being at 10,000, you best believe that the people who are invested in that stock market, no matter what the numbers are, when they close at the end of the day, those people are getting bank. And even when they lose,
Of course.
eventually it will settle out. There are things that
Yep.
I've had in there since all the way back when they made a big deal about the 6,000. You don't touch it. You got to pay the
Yep.
long ball with some things.
Me too.
Point is well taken, and a lot of those opportunities were shut out because of the color of our skin.
Right. That's
Particularly
right.
the unions, they wouldn't let us in, and they did. We sat on the bench, didn't get the opportunities to really learn. So now the industry is suffering because they have a shortage of skilled workers in the trades. And so now they're more open to it, us being in there. The question is, are we going to answer the call and take advantage of that? So I agree wholeheartedly with your points that we need to take a look at areas that AI can't take over.
That's right.
Right.
The
That's what I was going to say,
robots
Rodney.
can't take over.
That's what I was going to say, Rodney. The
So-
faster we start going back to the trades, I promise you, the faster they are going to start creating AI and robots to fix your toilet. Because with capitalism, you need in order for it to work very well, you need a significant poor class of people in order for it to work the way that you want it to work. So America has never been able to
Good
do
topic.
anything economically without a free or almost free labor. But anyway, anything you guys got to say before we close it out? The
Remember
topics.
that. Yeah. Okay. Well, as it relates to the demonstration, go vote. Demonstrate your voice at the polls. The turnout has been horrible this month so far in my county, in Fulton County. Folks need to wake up. Local elections affect you more than anything else. Anything else. Your city council, your mayor affect you more than anything else. School board. So please go to the polls and remember that the Public Service Commission, there are 2 races, districts 2 and 3, I believe. There are 2 Democrats on the, and I'm a Democrat, so I'm saying this is a Democrat, not for the show, but as Rodney, that, that we need to get these 2 Democrats on the Public Service Commission, and definitely come out and vote before Election Day if you can. If not, definitely November 4th.
And I just want to echo what Rodney said and also check your voter status. Please go check your voter status with the Secretary of State. Make sure there's no tricks going on with your eligibility to vote. There's been a massive effort for voter purging. We know that. And so don't fall for the okie doke. Make sure you go check your voter status with the Secretary of State. Make sure there's nothing going on that prevents you from doing so. So next month, again, is voting season. One more time, local elections are extremely important. Pay attention. And I'm going to wait till next month to talk about what I was going to speak on because something may change between now and then. So I'm going to hold my tongue on
Always.
what I was going to say about that first. But excellent
Something
topics.
always.
I just want to say both of you brought home some excellent things to think about.
Yes, sir. And one of the best ways to check your voting status is to
What's out?
vote early. Vote early. And if you got any problems, you'll know when you vote early. I mean, then by the hopefully you'll get it fixed
Right.
by election day. So
That's
get
right.
out there and vote early for this PSC.
And that's usually what
So-
I do.
That's right. That's right.
That's right.
But there is one other thing.
Okay.
My state senator, Jason Estevez, is running for governor, and he stepped down. There's a vacancy, and there's a special election to fill that vacancy. And that date is November 18th, the election day. Early voting starts the 27th, this coming Monday, for that special election. So there'll be some local races that'll still be on the ballot until November 4th. But the state senate vacancies, Senate District 35, that's part of Cobb County, a little bit of Cobb County, Smyrna in that area, and council districts 10 and 11 in the city of Atlanta, and a couple of council districts in the city of South Fulton. Senate District 35.
Great show, guys. Catch the Black Man's Roundtable podcast the third Thursday of the month. Also catch the Black Man's Roundtable with Rodney and Rodney the second Thursday of the month. And the Black Man's Roundtable Local Lookout with Rodney and Bobby the first Thursday of the month. All episodes drop at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Until next time, we'll see you in them suites and them streets. Peace.
Peace.
Hey, family. If you like what you saw, visit our website at blackmansroundtable.com for more information or to check out more content. Until next time, we'll see you in them suites and them streets. Peace.